to the show and learn to play. Whether you are new or you're a pro, I'm sure we have something to show. Amber, green, red, and steel, then purple, blue, complete our wheel. Listen and you'll learn some new strats to help you win some championship mats. So what ink color are you gonna choose? Inkable or uninkable? It is up to you.
Hi guys, FPS Manners here, and welcome back to the second episode of the Uninkable Dads. I'm joined again by legendary Grandad Glenn. So we've got a few bits to go through today. We're going to bring you the tagline game. We're going to bring you the answer to the tagline game, and then obviously we'll have the new one at the end of the episode, so stick around for that. We're going to go tell you a bit about ourselves. We've got a few little challenges coming up, and then go through our first deck in set 7. I think I'm going to go controversial on that one, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll run you quickly through how we manage multi-decks, planning out multiple decks on a given night, and then the card reveals at the end, which I think is almost all the cards have been revealed now. So, to start us off, shall we do the tagline?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I set this up, so I don't think you really knew. So, as a reminder for anyone, the tagline game for this week was "Be proud of that badge, you earned it." Did you have any ideas at all? I think you know now, but...
Yeah, I worked out 5 minutes ago before this when you put it up on the screen. I didn't actually. This is a good one. This is from this is from a film that I've only seen bits of when the kids are watching it. I've not actually managed to sit down and watch the whole thing myself. It's definitely on my to-do list.
Yeah, no, it's a good film. I chose this one because I did actually mention this card in the last episode. So because I mentioned it, I was like, it can also be the tagline. So thank you very much if you did comment on below. We will, if you comment your one for the one at the end of the video, if you get it right, we'll give you a shout out. If you get it wrong, but you're close, we'll still give you a shout out. And if you get it completely wrong, we'll probably still give you a shout out. So it's always worth commenting. So this week's tagline was, good job. Now, I chose this because we were talking about the Vanish cards, and along with the Vanish cards was the idea of chosen characters in an action will get banished. So I was saying you can give something +1 more, and they'll never get to use it. So that was the one we went with. So it was the "Be proud of that badge, you earned it." So, yeah, it was a nice one. So we'll bring you another one at the end of the video, so please stick around for that. So let's go back a little bit and go through a little bit about ourselves.
Inkable or uninkable? It is up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm Lorcana Grandad because I play Lorcana with my granddaughter. Lorcana's not the first trading card game I've played, but it's probably the first one that I've played, seriously as I play Lorcana. Probably the first one I've gone that deeply into. I first came across trading card games with my son, and we're both big fans of Final Fantasy franchise, so we played that game on the console a lot. I went to a Comic-Con and they were launching the Final Fantasy trading card game there, so we had a demo game of that, really enjoyed it, and he said, "Dad, can we get this?" I didn't really know what this was, so I sort of walked round to the desk, said, "What is it we need to buy?" Hooked ourselves up with a couple of starter decks and some booster packs, and kind of went from there. That was cool. We enjoyed that, but the game was maybe a little bit too complex for my son at the time. He was about 12. So we looked around and we ended up sort of settling on Pokemon. Found a nice little local place where we could play that. A few more sort of kids his age, and some parents as well. So yeah, we played that. Went to a few sort of competitions. It was mainly playing at home and playing with some friends, sort of once a week. So that was what got me into it. We then, as he got older and got into other things, we didn't play sort of Pokemon for a while, and then I was looking for something to do to get me out of the house, something to be kind of my thing, my hobby. So I was going to pick up Pokemon again, and when I sort of started looking online, I saw Disney had got a card game. So being a Disney fan, I thought, I want to check this out. Grabbed a couple of starter decks from our local game store, got my granddaughter to sit down and give me a game so I could work out how it all worked. At the end of a couple of games, she went, "Right, this is my deck, is it?" So I was like, "Oh, you're playing, are you?" So yeah, so then my stepdaughter said, "Where is it you're taking my daughter on a Friday night?" So I sort of show her these Disney cards. She's a Disney fan as well, so she was like, "Oh, yeah, have you got another deck? Can I come along?" So we had three of us going along, and it's been, for me, it's being able to share that. I love this hobby. I love Lorcana. I would play it myself anyway if my granddaughter wasn't involved. But being able to share that with Lily has just been absolutely
Just add
awesome.
something extra to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. So that's where we sort of come from. I consider myself a pretty average player, but I like competing. I've always liked, I've always played sports and things. I like competition. I like tournament formats. And I've done okay. I've held my own in some set champs. Not won one just yet, but maybe that's coming with set 7 time. So that's me. I've love Disney. You're fan of Encanto especially, and Moana. So love the Maui cards in there and the Encanto that we've got. So yeah, really been enjoying this game and the little community that we've got together. But how about yourself?
Yeah, so again, for me, this is my first TCG. So I used to play the Witcher card game, which was strictly online only. That come from the Witcher 3. They then created their own standalone game, which they released. I played that a lot during lockdown, so I played that quite a bit. I streamed it, I made videos about it. That's how I ended up meeting a few the YouTubers and streamers that I know. I then did quite well in that. I mean, I come from quite a competitive background in gaming as anyway, because I made it to one game away from reaching the pros at Call of Duty for
Cool.
Call of Duty Ghost it was. So I was close to hitting pro there, and then I started playing Gwent, did really well, made it all the way up to pro rank, got quite far into it, and then lockdown ended and I had to go back to work. So that kind of stopped my dreams there. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time playing the game and absolutely loved that side of things. And then my brother-in-law showed me a Magic starter deck. We played a couple of games. I was like, oh, I quite like this. Yeah, I've played Gwent. I've now played a couple of games of Magic. I like this style of game. And it was just by pure coincidence that I was on TikTok or some social media platform, and I saw a picture of Spessy and Thea playing the starter deck from set 1 at an airport, waiting for a plane somewhere. And I was like, oh, what's this? This looks good. I know these two from Gwent. This has got to be good. If they're playing it, it's got to be good. Let's have a look. Realised it was Disney related. Very quickly went to my wife, who was Disney mad, and was like, found us a new game. We need to play this. And it kind of just picked up from there, really. I mean, I had the same thing as you, been able to, me and my wife both go into locals on a Friday and just been able to, have a bit of time out and enjoying a hobby that we really enjoy. Since we've had our little, and my wife has stopped playing. She plays every now and then at home, but not as much. Whereas obviously I've continued. I've recently started taking obviously my daughter, hence the Uninkable Dads, and she's loving it. She's probably what do you reckon, like 2-3 years behind where Lil is in sort of experience wise. She's got at least a year.
Yeah, but maybe about a year or so. But yeah, it's been
but
great, and having her along actually has given Lily a new lease of life in it, if you like. She's always enjoying the card game, but it's given her a friend that she can have a laugh with and sort of bounce off of. So
yeah, well, it's like anything, isn't it? It's like she goes down to locals on a Friday, and half the time, the majority of the time, she's the only what I would call kid there, you know. So it's a case of sometimes you do see her, like, she'll finish her game and then she'll be like, oh, I'm going to go and sit here and I'll wait for my next one. Whereas, you know, where I find her when Mills is there as well, if they've got that thing, they'll disappear. You can hear them chatting away and playing in the corner, you know, they're all fine. So it sort of keeps them entertained in between games because, let's be honest, with aggro decks, they like to go quick and then have a 20-minute break anyway. So. But yeah, so that's a bit about background. Obviously, you may recognise me from FPS Madness, which is obviously my separate YouTube. But I haven't posted anything on there for a little while, so probably not. So going from us then, because we don't want to bore everyone to death, I've decided to make a little game for us today. So in our group chats, I put in something which we call like a board state game. So it's basically a picture of a board state or a description of a board state, which I get from somewhere else. I'm not going to lie. I don't make all these up myself. I've done a couple, but most of them I've, taken the inspiration from somewhere else. And this one, I took inspiration from a very, very special place. I wonder if you'll recognise this one.
These have been good. They've been a really good way of sort of learning about the game and thinking through, different situations to sort of test ourselves in the group chat. So.
Yeah, it just adds that little bit, it's sort of, I normally try and drop them in on a Thursday, just for locals. It's like, right, come on, guys, get your brain in Lacana gear and, try and solve this puzzle. So can you solve this one for us then, Glenn?
Let's have a look. What have we got? Okay, so we got red. Oh, this is what we're doing.
So, a slight insight.
I might recognise this.
So, unfortunately, anyone that is watching on YouTube, obviously you can see the screen. Anyone that is listening on Spotify, I believe you can actually see the video on Spotify as well. But just in case you can't, I'll explain this to you. So we have a Sapphire Ruby player as player 1 on 14 lore. They have a Maui Half-Shock exerted and Grandma Tyler exerted. And then player 2, in this case, Grandad Glenn, had a Callahan, a Madam Mim Snake, and a Pete all in board. And a friends on the other side in hand. We only know that's in hand because a slight misplay here. But so he was currently on 16 lore. So I believe, do you want to go through what your play was, and then we'll go through what maybe should have been?
Maybe should have been. Yeah. So I actually also had a Gantu in hand. And my thinking at this point, as I've been playing around the shark for a couple of turns, I know my opponent has got a Pirate's Life in the discard. So if they can get a challenge off with Maui, then they can get back a Pirate's Life. So I'm trying to work out, first of all, can I win from this situation?
Big key
and
point here.
Possibly the key point here. I've decided... possibly because Grandma Tuller was invisible. I'm certain she was invisible. I've decided that I can't win at this situation. I can only get to 19 lore. So I've played out the Gantu, and then my thinking is I need to make sure that I'm in a position so that if my opponent clears my exerted characters and sings a Pirate Life, I can still win the next turn through questing Gantu. So I did all the maths. I worked out that, being to taking myself to 18 by questing with Calhoun and Madam Mim, then I'd be okay against the Pirate's Life. So therefore, I didn't need the quest with Pete. So decided to sing Friends on the Other Side with Pete. Not quite sure what I was looking for. To be fair, it might have been a goat sort of goat bounce situation. Rather than dropping the Gantu, if I'd got the cards in hand. But yeah, so that was my play. And Michael stood behind me. FPS was stood there looking over my shoulder, grimacing as I made this play. So what was the right play?
Well, I mean, obviously, I don't want to tell you how to play. The slight mistake here was obviously the invisible Grandma Tyler. It was very awkward, obviously. It was at locals, I knew both players, and I'm standing there watching the game, and I'm like, oh my God, please please quest and attack, please quest and attack. But yeah, it's one of those ones. Everyone does it. You were doing in your head the right thing. You were looking at the board and saying, okay, well, if I play Gantu here, I can still go to 18. Pirate's Life down to 14. Quest with Gantu, I'm still got 20. So in your head, you're playing around the long game, which is perfectly good, and you're looking one step ahead, but unfortunately you jumped one step ahead, so you missed the play that was right in front of you. So yeah, anyone obviously on Spotify, obviously Madam Mint would quest 1, Pete would quest 1, taken up to 18 law, and then the Callahan, even though she would get banished herself, would still banish the Grand Martala, so therefore getting into law and finishing the game. So yeah, it's easily done, and you won't be the first person or the last to look at a Callahan and think, do I quest here or do I challenge? It's probably one of those ones. It's like anything. You probably looked at the Maui and gone invasive, and then just not even thought, in your head, the next step along. It's also in the middle of a game. You may not take this trade because you don't want your Callahan to die or to get banished. So in the middle of a game, you may not take that trade. So 3 turns ago, you're probably thinking, well, I'm not going to run this into Tala because the 1 extra law here isn't going to outweigh the character on board. Whereas the end turn that can finish and end the game is obviously a slightly different matter. But yeah, this is the sort of thing that I stick in. It'd be something similar, and it's a case of, can you work out a way of winning in this turn, or if not, securing yourself potentially to win the next turn. So, but yeah, when I saw the misplay, we thought we've definitely got to bring this one up. So
yeah, it's a good reminder to just make sure that you have checked every card that's on board and thought through all the combinations. In those important turns, don't rush your plays. But in my defence, I will say that I did actually win locals the following week. So I don't always make misplays, but when I do, they tend to be good ones.
Nah, exactly. Everyone does it. Everyone makes a misplay, and it's just a highlight. We're at the end of the day, we're all human. We all make mistakes, and that's quite an easy one to make. So obviously,
watch out for those invisible Grand Martalas.
Yes,
they sneak up on you.
They definitely do. It blends in quite well. The blue card on the purple mat. So going forward then, so we've got misplays, we've got mistakes. What is going to be the first mistake and the first crazy idea we're going to come up with a set 7 deck that's never going to work?
Well, mine's going to be continuing to try and find a way to sing Be Prepared on turn 5.
Yeah, unfortunately, as much as I keep saying it, the Aladdin shift just isn't good enough. There's not a good enough reason to be.
I've tried the Aladdin. I've tried the Moana.
Yeah,
they haven't given me any new toys in set 7 to try it with. But so I'll find a way. I'll find a way one day.
Yeah. I think you could potentially do it in a different color, but you're definitely not doing it in Ruby Amethyst. Not easily, anyway. Yeah, I think I'm going to try something different. I think I'm going to try the Ruby Steel. I'm going to give it a go. It's a deck that I've wanted to work for a long time. I played around with it a couple of times. I built the pirate version. I built like a mill deck version. And they're just not quite strong enough. Which I'm hoping this time around, there's a chance. There's quite a few nice cards in that set that could really, tip the balance into making it viable. I don't think it's going to be top tier. It's not going to be an S tier deck. It's, it's viable potentially at locals, potentially at set champs. If you were going, obviously there isn't any currently on, but if you were going to a DLC or a major event, I wouldn't take it. But as a local thing, as a relatively competitive deck, it should be okay.
Definitely got a few nice cards in this set to help build that strategy out, didn't it?
Definitely. We talked about, obviously, I think we went over Mushu in the last episode. That's going to be one big one. That's going to help quite a lot. I think the only issue with it was missing card draw, so I think I'm going to go a little bit crazy and maybe do Maui, Half Shock and Whole New World and just refresh my hand every time I play. So, yeah, it could get interesting. Definitely. So obviously I'm probably going to build more than one. The other deck I would like to build is the Sapphire Emerald deck, which is going to have the Ink Geyser in. So
There are some crazy combinations in that, aren't there? So
yeah, I think that's sort of my style of deck. I like, options and some craziness, and yeah. So I think that's definitely going to be one I'll be giving a go. Obviously,
we were looking at a crazy crazy fairyland sort of the perfect cards in hand turn on that the other day, where you can end up with two. I think it's a 4/4 and a 5/5 strength character on board, and with Ink Geyser putting your opponent down to three ink and saying, there you go, deal with these two monsters. When you've got 3 ink to do it with.
Yeah, I think it was something to do with the new hero. It's not Hero, is it? It's
Hero Hamada. Yeah,
it is Hero. And the new Baymax, the Universal Shift one. So yeah, there's going to be some broken combos. There really is. And it's also one of those ones, I think, it's a very, what I like to call like a Swiss Army knife deck. It can do a bit of everything. And, you've got to decide in the moment on what you've got in front of you and what your opponent has in front of them on the board on what you do your next turn. It's not a linear deck of like, this turn I must do this turn I must do this, So I think it'd be interesting. But, talking about multiple decks, are you looking forward to going back and restarting of having to manage 2 new decks?
So what I kind of hoped, as we went into set 7, was that we could, we'd have some obvious cards that we could add in to, strengthen our existing decks, while I then worked out spreading the colours around. Because the issue that we've had over the last couple of sets is, unsurprisingly, Amethyst being a pretty strong colour. Both myself and Lily want to play decks that have Amethyst in, which means, needing to have 2 play sets of all of the key Amethyst cards. So we got those now, so that's kind of okay. But then you don't really want to duplicate other ink colours. So Lily's been playing
potential moving away from it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then my stepdaughter's started playing again on and off recently. So she wants a deck. So I was looking at how do you split those 6 ink colours out so that you've got 2 competitive colours each, sort of much easier to manage. And then Ravensburg.
So if anyone knows how to do that, please leave us a comment, because I don't think it's actually possible. Not easily, anyway.
Not easily, not cheaply. It's so 3 meta decks, if you like. One of them needs to be aggro, always, for Lily. But so I've been playing Ruby Amethyst. Ravensburg have decided they're going to show no love to Ruby Amethyst whatsoever in this set.
Doesn't need any love.
So I'm playing
when you've got B prep,
set
you
5
don't need
deck
any more luck. All right, B prep's enough.
Yeah. So it's a cheaper way of doing it. I'm playing set 5 cards in set 7.
This is true.
But yeah, so we've looked at a few different ideas. Lily quite fancies stepping back to Amber Amethyst, going back to her sort of real aggro roots. But there's some of the dual colour ink cards in there give it a little bit of a different flavour, possibly that Mirabelle that can sing and search up cards from the deck, and then you've got the Pascal that's a 3/3, so got a little bit more body to it than some of the aggro cards. So yeah, she fancied having a look at that, and I was looking at Sapphire Steel. So it's a deck that I've tried to get to work on a few occasions, and I think it's got some really interesting new cards.
No, definitely. The thing with me, I don't know where I'm going to go with it, because where Millie, my daughter's, where she's newer to the game, I can sort of recommend things to her. So I can say, no, you want to be playing this, you don't want to be playing that. The issue is her first deck was an Amber Steel deck, and now she wants to play Amber Steel, which is fine. Making a good aggro Amber Steel was quite difficult. There is one. There is a very good one. The issue is she has then got 90% of the cards I need for my deck. So there's an issue there. in all fairness, I did buy a few. You know, I've got the Pete, I've got the Pluto. I think I've got double up again too now. I think I've got like 6 grabber swords. So, you know, so there's enough there that we could get that to work. The only issue with that deck is the card draw isn't very good. You've basically got Rapunzel and maybe one other card that's reliable for card draw. I don't really want to go down the road of teaching her how to play a whole new world just yet. I think that may be a little bit too much. So I'm tempted to push her to same as Ill, to be honest with you, Amber, Amethyst, and say, here, have the rabbits, the genie, you know, have all these cards that give you cards in your hand, and just learn to play that way. But I'm not entirely sure yet. I've still got to look into it. But where I have that a little bit more flexible, I can say, well, I'm not going to be playing Amethyst. I'm not going to be playing Amber. You go play that, and then leave me with Ruby, Steel, Emerald, and Blue. Oh, look, the 2 decks I wanted to play. Surprise, surprise. Perfect. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure how we're going to do that just yet. Especially if she goes, no, I want to play Steel. I'm like, well, you're not having any of the set 7 cards just yet. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure on that one yet. That's going to be a conversation. So, talking about set 7 cards and the reveals, shall we go for a few more of the latest reveals?
Yeah, let's have a look. I think we've got. So
obviously,
at the time of recording, I think we've got nearly all of them revealed now. So I think we're just going to go through a selection of ones that we thought were interesting to take a look at.
Yeah, I think there's only about 6 left to be revealed at the minute. I think everyone's on that point now where it's like all the legendaries are out. We want the enchantments now. What do the enchantments look like? So
yeah, and is this quite late for them to? I don't think in the other sets they've held off right to the end before they've shown a single enchanted, have they? Is my memory wrong?
I'm not sure. You know, I get the feeling there was an enchanted sort of midway through.
Yeah, I thought we've seen them earlier. So maybe they've got something very special that they're holding for us.
Yeah, I think I like it better this way, though. Because it kind of, you see the enchanted and then you're like, oh, that's so nice. And then all the other cards kind of just feel a bit meh after that. Whereas like here, you've had the build up. It's like the dual ink, what's coming out. You know, we find out that there's no locations. We get to this far and realise there's no locations this set whatsoever.
What do you think to that?
I mean, personally, as someone who doesn't really play locations, I'm kind of a fan of it. You know, take a break for a set. You know, there's no point pushing out location cards that don't do anything, that's never going to see play, and you know, just for the sake of pushing out locations, you know, you may as well take a break from it, and like they have done. But I think there's more actions in this one, so I think the characters is the same, but I think there's 2 extra actions in each color, which I think, you know, actions and songs and stuff are going to be a staple with pretty much any deck. You know, you can guarantee most decks out there are going to be running at least 4, if not 8 actions, whereas you wouldn't be finding that with locations. So I think it's good. It's good to mix it up anyway. Okay, so talking about set 7, let's go through some of these reveals. So first of all, we have Aurora. So over to you. What do you reckon?
Yeah, so this is an amber card, cost 3. It's a 1 strength, 4 willpower card that quests for 2 with Singer 5 and an ability Sweet Dreams. Whenever you remove 1 or more damage from a character, ready this character. She can't quest or challenge for the rest of this turn. So yeah, the abilities around the Singer 5, I guess being able to potentially gain 2 lore and then sing in a turn. I don't think it replaces anything in any of the current amber decks. This looks like it's really made to fit in a healing deck of some kind, and we've got a few cards that care about healing in this set, so there might be something there.
Yeah, I can imagine this being more potentially an amber sapphire, maybe even an amber ruby. I don't think this fits in amber steel. I don't see the damage being healed very often to trigger this, but in Ruby with the self-damage cards potentially, but also with Blue being a lot of healing. But yeah, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think with Sapphire, there's quite a few healing cards in there, isn't there? There's the Baymax that heals. Maybe Grandpappy becomes key card again. I don't know. I think definitely there's a few cards that care about healing, so that would be interesting to see. Amber Sapphire heal deck and whether that could work in this set.
Yeah, quite possible. Quite possible. I think it's definitely one to keep an eye on. It's a hero and princess, so I think it could potentially fall into the Amber Sapphire deck quite nicely. So up next, now this is in I don't know what language this is, so I'm not gonna pretend to guess. But this is the Queen. It's a 4-cost inkable 4/3 that quests for 1. You can exert this character to place 3 cards from your opponent's discard to the bottom of their deck. If you do so, you gain 3 lore. If one of those characters or one of those cards is a princess character, then you gain 4 lore instead. I believe I've remembered that correctly. We did have a little discussion in our group chat, didn't we, whether it's 3 character cards or 3 just cards in general. Because I think if it's 3 character cards, this is okay. It being 3 cards in general, I think it's actually pretty good. It stops the cycling of actions with Maui Shark. It stops the cycling of items with Tamtoa. So this could be quite good. I don't know whether it's a tech card potentially to go into a Amphis deck, but I don't see it being a 4 of personally.
No, I don't see it being a 4 of. I can sort of see what you're saying with stopping Maui or getting rid of the actions, but from the point of view of gaining 3 lore through its ability, first of all, it's got to survive the turn. Now, its 4 strength kind of helps with that, but I think we're coming into a meta where there's a lot of 4 strength. So I think strength manipulation and a whole new world, not a whole new world, strength manipulation and the world's greatest criminal mind might well come back into play at some point, which would then be able to get rid of this.
Criminal Minds 5, though, isn't it?
But there's a song, right?
Yeah. What do you mean?
Oh, so no, with strength manipulation. Yeah, so you'd need something to increase the strength by 1.
Yeah.
So yeah, it needs to stick around that turn, and then you tap it, you get 3, maybe 4 if it's princess. Your opponent does have to have the cards in discard, so on curve, I can think of a few decks which may well not have 3 cards in the discard at this point.
Easily. On curve, yeah.
And I just think the high roll with this card is being able to tap it, put the 3 cards, gain the lore, and then re-ready it somehow and tap it again, right? But I think if you only get to do it once, this is effectively a 4-cost 4/3 that quests for 3, and I'm not sure given the amount of good 4-cost characters in Amethyst, I'm not sure where you fit that stat line into an Amethyst deck.
Moving on from there, we have Snow White. Do you want to take us through this one?
Yeah, so this is another card that I like the look of for
about the kids decks here, because this
kids decks. Yeah, absolutely. This is Lily's sort of card, right? So what we've got here is a 4-cost amber card, Snow White, fairest in the land. If you haven't seen this card, and you're not watching us on YouTube, go and look it up because the artwork is absolutely fantastic on this card. Beautiful card. It's 2 strength, 2 willpower, quest for 2, with the ability hidden away. This character can't be challenged. So yeah, straight out, that's Lily's sort of card. I can stick this down if it survives. If it survives actions and abilities, I quest with it, and it just sits there and I keep questing with it for 2.
I think the best thing by far on this card is the fact it's an uncommon. Because if this was a rare, this would be a £10 card. If it's super, you're looking at higher.
Yeah.
Legendary, in the right deck, it could be ridiculous. The fact that they've made this an uncommon, I think, is such a good call. It stops the card from being broken, in a sense, because it's widely available to everyone. And I 100% agree with you with the art on this. I'd say this is one card that I want to get a full set of, because you can tell just by looking at the art that the background of where you could imagine the foil being. This, I think it'd look absolutely stunning in foil. So, but yeah, this has definitely got a lot of potential.
So there's a combo that I really like the look of with this, which is with the Alice Savvy Sailor in some kind of Heroes Amber Sapphire deck, because you play the Alice on 3, she's got Ward. You play Snow White on 4, you quest with the Alice, which means you then give Snow White Ward. So she's now got Ward, so she's going to survive the turn. She can't be challenged next turn. Yeah. That looks a really interesting card.
Ward is going to be very, very impactful next to the point where I think even you may see a return of set 1 Aurora with the give everything Ward. Especially in a Amber Sapphire deck, you know, you can imagine you've got 2 of these down, they've both got Ward. It's like, what you can do? You literally can't do anything. I mean, it's definitely going to be impactful, and like I said, the biggest thing for me is the fact that it's an uncommon. I think if this was a rare or super, you know, it would be very more difficult for people to get hold of, therefore it would be so much more of a card. But yeah, I really like it. So on to the next one. We do have this one. So I'll let you run us through this.
So this is an action card in Amethyst. It's a 2-cost card, Magical Maneuvers, and we've got the 3 Fairy Godmothers on the card. And it says, return chosen character of yours to your hand, exert chosen character. I think this is interesting. I can see some worlds where this could see play. It's Amethyst, so it fits with the Amethyst bounce strategy of wanting to return a character of yours to your hand, and exerting a character is always strong, right? So potentially a turn 5 in an Amethyst deck where you've got some cards on board, you're returning maybe goat or rabbit that was maybe played on 4 back to your hand. You're exerting something, and then you're coming in with fox and swinging into that thing, or swinging with something that's already on board.
When I first looked at this card, I was a bit like, it's okay. You know, it's not the best card in the world. The more I look at it, this is basically an inkable non-character Pinocchio. If you didn't have a character on board, so say you had Madam in Fox in your hand and you had this in your hand, you got 6 ink, they've got something that you need to get rid of, i.e. say a Gantu, you can play this, exert their character. Oh, you'd need something on board for Madam to stick, but a different Rush character. That was a bad example. But a different Rush character, you could play it down and then take out the Gantu, because you don't have to return something to hand. You only have to do that if there's something on. It's not a May ability in the way of if you have something on board. But if you don't have something on board, you can still exert. So I don't know how impactful that would be, but I still think it, you know, quite easily could fit 2 of in as a tech, potentially. Especially in decks that want to exert things for certain reasons. You know, there's maybe in the Amethyst Emerald deck where you've got the Jasmine, that you banish everything back to the player's hand that's exerted. You could potentially play this to exert an extra character before you play Shift Jasmine. So there's possibilities there, definitely. I think it could see some play. So up next we have Panic. So this is a 4-cost inkable 2/3 that quests for 2. When you play this character, you may move 2 damage counters from chosen character to a chosen opposing character. Again, this is basically another version of Bell, isn't it? It's just a quest for 2 instead of 1, which is the Little Bell. Sorry, the Little Bell I think is 3-cost inkable, but I think that's a 3/3, but only costs 1. So this is basically the same thing, but it's a 2/3, and this moves 2, and I think the Little Bell only moves 1. Obviously, the Little Bell is a shift for the big one, but no one really plays it for that reason. So I think this could quite easily in a deck that cares about moving damage and stuff. It has potential. I'm not overly keen on it. I'm not overly sold on it. But again, as someone who doesn't play Amethyst, I don't look at this card and go, you know, this needs to be in my deck. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, again, it's an interesting one. I mean, moving damage is powerful ability, right? Because you're cleaning up damage off of your character as well as moving damage onto an opposing character. I guess the question is, what deck is it playing in that you're going to routinely have damage on a 3-cost character to play this on curve? Obviously, you can play it later, but
yeah,
generally you're not leaving damage on characters. Certainly not in Ruby Amethyst. You're normally, if you're taking things out, you're normally trading.
What's the ink cost of Madeleine Fox?
3.
Yeah, so you got the potential of, Fox having damage on her from the last challenge and doing it. I think there's definitely options, but the thing is, it's the turn after that. So it's like with Fox, for argument's sake, where it's rush, the damage is already going to be on it. There's not many other free cost characters. There's like the crab, for instance. Potentially you could heal a crab, but most of the time, if you're going to run a crab into something, it's because you want to put that free onto something else afterwards. So,
yeah, I think it's an interesting. I mean, the fact it quests for 2, and it's inkable. I'm sure there's scenarios people will find to play this into.
Next one we have is armor. So do you want to run us through this?
So this is a dual link card. So this is an Amethyst Sapphire card, or Blurple for those of you that play that. It's a 4-cost inkable, 2 strength, 3 willpower, with 2 lore, with support and an ability Winter Ambush. When you play this character, opposing character can't ready at the start of their next turn. So this is playing into what we see Elsa and Anna doing a lot in the game in terms of freezing a character and not allowing them to ready at the start of the next turn. Again, it's another one with some sort of amazing artwork here. There's loads of detail in this, so do have a look at this scene that's being played out on this card. Yeah, what are your thoughts? Have you played much Blurple?
I've tried Burple. I did give it a go this set actually. I enjoyed it. It's a fun deck to play. It was just missing a little bit of control, unfortunately, which I think they have potentially got this set. There is a couple that do help that deck out. One thing I do notice from reading this is obviously you have to pick a already exerted character for this, whereas the Big Elsa does exert them, then cause them to freeze. Whereas with this, you would have to pick a ready exerted character. So if they're in top deck mode and they played something like, I'm going to use Gantu as an option here because it's currently in my deck and therefore it's stuck in my head. But if you've got a Gantu on board and they try and use this on this, it's already ready. So it's not going to ready itself next turn. So I think there's a potential there where it might not trigger in the way you're hoping. But a 2-quester with support, I think support's could be quite a big thing in the next set. There's a lot of quite decent characters now with support. You do have what's the blue character was love support?
Alice Growing Girl.
That's the one. So, there's a potential that Alice could come in. Alice in Blurple could work very well, just because there are some quite big numbers in purple. So there's a potential there. But yeah, no, I love it. I really like the artwork on this card. I've got to be honest, this is slightly off topic, but still on topic at the same time. I've been playing a lot of Marvel Rivals recently, and as soon as I saw this character, I generally thought it was a character from that game. I generally looked at it and thought, what's that doing on the card? And I was like, oh, no, it's all good. So yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that. My son showed me the trailer of that game this evening, which looks a lot of fun. There's something I've just noticed on this card, and it might be that I've missed something in the Frozen series, but Anna here is a queen.
She is, yeah. Is she not a queen at the end of number 2? I thought Elsa disappears off, doesn't she? And she goes off to her own little thing, and then she leaves her there, and she becomes Queen of Arendelle, I believe.
There you go. Yeah, I'm missing the end. Yes.
Yeah. I think I don't know whether all Annas in this are queens. I assume so, unless the idea is this is from Frozen 2 and the other ones are from Frozen 1, potentially. That could be a little Easter egg we need to look into. That could be interesting. Let us know in the comments below. Have a look. Let us know, are all Annas queens, or do we have old Annas and new Annas? But yeah, this is the artwork and the scene on this is brilliant. I believe in this set, I think there's now 3 that I know of cards that link. So if you place the Elsa next to this, it's not quite the same. They are slightly different scenes, but there are 2 other cards that do actually link. If you put the cards next to each other, they do actually make a picture, which I believe is an Aladdin and a Jasmine, and there's another one that when you put them together, they do actually form a picture. So I don't think the Elsa does, but it's very similar in styling. So yeah, definitely worth checking out. I can imagine that would look stunning in an enchanted, but I don't think we'll get an enchanted uncommon. So going forward, now do you want to run us through this?
Yeah, this is a really interesting card actually. So it's an emerald card. It's a 3-cost inkable hero Hamada, future champion, 3 strength, 3 willpower, quest for 1 lore with the ability origin story. When you play a Floodborn character on this card, draw a card. So I think I'm right in saying this is the first time we've seen an ability that works in that way. We've obviously seen abilities when a Floodborn character is played, something happens, but this is the ability triggering when something is played on top of the card.
Yeah, it's a strange, but I like it at the same time. I think it opens up the possibilities for future sets. It's like, you could have a card where it's quite a bog standard card, but when you shift onto it, it does like 2 damage to something or something like that. It gives you options. So I like it. I think there's a very good shift for this in green blue, which is obviously Hiram himself, and you've also got the universal shift Baymax, which can also shift onto this. If we see more universal shifts in the next set, this card could get very, very good. If you're shifting another card that is very powerful on top of this and drawing a card, this basically becomes a morph, but likely to stick around longer and draws you a card. So you're not really going to be worried too much about that. So. You haven't played too much green, so what do you think? Do you reckon this is a?
Any card that can draw a card is always good. Say the stats are reasonable, right? It's a 3 strength rather than 2 strength. And yeah, definitely, as you said, if we see more of that universal shift coming in, then I think cards like this become really interesting. Because then that shift can kind of come from anywhere. If it's a hero Hamada that has to shift on top, then obviously it's just more limited options. But as you're saying, green blue, there's you can potentially play a deck that's got 8 cards that can potentially shift on top of this.
Yeah, it gives you good odds. Yeah, no, I like it. As someone who's played green, I do like it. It's outside the Brawl and Sisu. Obviously, bear in mind they don't have an ice block or what I think is the next card, which is very, very broken indeed. But oh no, it's not. Well, yeah. Stay tuned. I wonder what's coming next.
Stay tuned.
So up here we have a 5-cost uninkable Queen of Hearts, which is a 2/6 quest for 2. So shift 3, which I like. We don't have many Queen of Hearts shifts that I actually look at and think this is quite good. Whenever another character is played, put a damage counter on them. This is very potential for the healing, but they've been very clever and locked this into green-red. So obviously if this was on anything, if you could potentially play this in Amber, you could then start getting use out of the cards that want to be healed and stuff, because as soon as you play your own card, it's going to get damaged. This isn't an opposing card, this is any card. So even your own cards are going to come in and take damage from this, but it's going to stop people playing anything with 1 health on. So, I mean, there's not many cards that are going to be too worried about that, but there's definitely a few that I can think of, like, this is going to screw up a lot of the cards that, while this card doesn't have any damage on, has +4 or quest for 2, or, all those sort of cards like Pluto and Lawrence are you're not going to want to play them. You're either going to rink them or you're going to need to deal with this card first. So yeah, I quite like this one. I don't play these colours very often. I have tried it once. I'm tempted to give it another go. But yeah, I quite like this one. What do you reckon?
Yeah, agreed. Beast Tragic Hero would be another one. Especially as this is 5 costs, so it could be coming in on 5. Obviously, you can shift it on 3, but yeah, I mean, I think this is a shoe-in for an enchanted. I think the card looks absolutely awesome. The use of the red and green across the card just looks fantastic. Um, again, as you said earlier, it's a 2 strength. I think it probably needs to be a 2 strength because
Yeah, I think
you could
higher would be a bit
probably,
dangerous.
yeah, this card could probably be quite easily broken. But yeah, being an uninkable, being 2 strength, being the fact that you're also damaging your own characters, I think I think in the right deck, then yes. But I mean, you're not going to put this in a deck unless you are specifically building around this mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, it goes straight into pretty much any green deck that wants damage on opposing. So there's a lot of green cards that are like when a card has damage, you can do certain things. You've got like that I can think of currently out is like Dinner Bell. You can just banish anything that's got damage on. You've got the Helga that adds 3 damage to any damaged character when she quests. There's quite a lot of cards in green that rely on damage being on a character before they can use their ability, and this is just perfect for that. It's a case of, well, the second you play it, it's going to come in with damage. And I believe the wording of put a damage counter on them means it also bypasses resist. So even if you have resist, it doesn't matter. You've still got to put 1 damage onto it. So I think it's very good. I think it's going to take a little bit of working out what style of deck it needs to be in, but it's definitely got potential. I think it gives green-red, or a lot of people call it the Christmas deck, quite a lot of options. So yeah, I quite like it. I think it's a good card and definitely has the opportunity. Now, this is a card that when I saw, I was very, I'm not sure on this, and then read it and was like, oh, I love this. So this is Pete, Space Pirate. This is a 6-cost inkable 5/5 that quests for 2. He's a shift 4. And he has the ability, while this character is exerted, opposing characters can't sing songs, and your pirate characters gain resist +1. When you first read that, it's okay. You're like, you can't sing songs. Well, only decks that really sing songs are going to be too worried about this. It's the fact it's a shift 4, so it goes straight on top of Pete that stops actions in the first place. So you play Pete on turn 3, stop all actions, you shift this on turn 4, they can't sing. If you've got to pay 3 ink to cast a friends, it's not going to feel very good. And then pirate characters with resist 1, there's quite a lot of pirates that are quite useful that could definitely get use out of this resist 1, especially when you look at some of the ones in the new set that have come out. You've also got things like Captain Hook, which is he's got a challenger 3, but unfortunately he's only got 2 health. With this, he's gonna potentially survive a couple more challenges. This in the right deck, I think, is going to be very, very good. I think the 5/5 is definitely going to give it a little bit more reach. Yeah, what do you reckon?
Well, yeah, I'd love to be playing a pirate deck. That sounds a lot of fun. So yeah, it's one thing I really like actually out of this set. I think that Ravensburger seems to be supporting some of these theme decks, and pushing them towards being a lot more playable. So yeah, absolutely, very keen on that. Yeah, this is an ink combination that I haven't played much of. I know you've played it a lot more than me.
Yeah, this is my main colours. So when you look at this, you've got the potential of Robin turn 1, Smee turn 2, Pete turn 3, Shift Robin, followed by Shift Pete, and then you've got the resist +1, which is also going to go onto himself because he's going to include himself in that. So he's a 5/1 with resist. So it's 5/1, sorry, a 5/5 with resist. So he's not going to be easy to get rid of, and you could potentially have him on board from turn 4, questing for 2. So I think he's very, very powerful. I mean, I have a current deck that I'll be playing, and I'd easily just slot him straight in. There wouldn't be any issues there at all. The resist on all pirates is great. The fact he gives himself resist is the bit that makes it sort of really good. So we just double checked. So Smee is actually a pirate himself. So the fact you can, play Pete on turn 3, then shift this turn 4, and you also give him Smee resist, so he's not going to take damage at the end of the turn either. So I think this is definitely going to pretty much slot into any green steel deck, really. There's not many that I don't think plays this. So yeah, definitely a good card. I like this one. And again, another option for an enchanted. We do have an enchanted Pete, but let's be honest, it's not the greatest enchanted. All enchanteds are great, but it's not the best. So moving on from that one, we have. Do you want to go ahead and read Cogsworth?
Yeah. So this is a Ruby card. It's a 3-cost inkable, 3/3 that quests for 1. Cogsworth Climbing Clock, with the ability Still Useful. While you have an item card in your discard, this character gets +2 strength. So that's interesting. Very often, if an item card is in your discard, it's staying there. Therefore, this is getting almost like a permanent 2 strength boost while it's on the board. So it's coming in at 3. So it means on turn 4, this can challenge with 5 strength potentially. I don't know if that's good enough to make it playable.
I don't know. I'd have to check on how the triggers work. Potentially with Vitalosphere, you could banish a Vitalosphere. You could play this on 3, banish a Vitalosphere, or play this on 4, sorry. It'd need to be on turn 4 because it costs 1 to banish thing. So you could banish that, which then gives this +2. That would go to your discard. So then this has another +2. So potentially this could hit for 7 on turn 4. Yeah, so I like it. I think it could be quite powerful. I don't know how it'd fit in a Ruby deck. It's quite a tight deck to fit this into, but it definitely has potential. It's going to have to be an item deck. It's not going to be a standard one. So possibly a red, blue, item deck. This could be quite powerful. But talking about red, blue, item decks, have I got it right this time?
No.
Well, still to come.
This is a red item though.
Well, this is true. So this is a 2-cost inkable Devil's Eye Diamond. This is an item with the ability that you exert it. If one of your characters was damaged this turn, gain 1 lore. There's not going to be many turns where a card on board in Ruby isn't going to be damaged. Most of the time, they're going to be challenging in some way, shape, or form. For me, too slow, personally. I could be wrong in a Sapphire Ruby item deck, but for me, I don't. Well, you don't have to pay ink to turn it, so it might not be too bad. But I don't know. I'm not sold on this one personally.
So does your character need to remain on board? So if it took damage, if it was banished, would that it's still taking damage, so it still counts?
I would say that as soon as your character takes any damage, the marble as such would go into the bag for this, and as long as you decide to take that out of the bag and use it before the end of your turn, then as far as I'm aware, that'd be fine. Obviously, you'd probably do it straight away, so that way you don't forget. So you'd run something in it, get banished, you exit that and gain your 1 lore. But yeah, that's a good point.
I guess this will stack as well, right? So again, very slow, but if you had 2 of these on board, then you can gain 2 lore each time, or 2. You can only do it once a turn because you have to exert the item, but you could exert both items, challenge into something, and you gain 2 lore because your character was damaged.
Potentially, they're looking at gaining lore in different ways. You're not really looking at picking up 1 or 2 here. Ruby Sapphire deck's going to be very much like close it out in one big turn with something like Diamond Terminator and the higher end cards. This might help it get over the line though. It's quite possible. We'll have to see on this one. I think it's got potential, but the deck needs to be right for it. I think. Is this the one? No, so close. We will get there.
We'll get there. This one's an interesting one. I don't think it's one that will necessarily see play, but I'm a fan of Wreck-It Ralph, so I like anything from that franchise. So we've got a Ruby 7-cost inkable action card called Out of Order, and it simply says banish chosen character. So this is a Maleficent dragon without the dragon.
This is basically pay 2 ink less and lose the dragon, isn't it? It's either a 2 less dragon Maleficent dragon or a 2 more expensive Dragonfire. whichever way you look at it. But I don't like it. I gotta be honest. It's definitely too slow. Play Dragonfire. If you're that desperate to just banish a random character, do it 2 turns earlier and play the non-inkable card. I've got to be honest. I think this is the first card that I've looked at and not liked the artwork either. I like the film. A really good film. I don't like the way they've done the red all the way around the edge. It feels like it encroaches into that out of order side, like the ruby line. And for me, It blurs too much. For me, it just doesn't look right. It took me a while to work out what I was actually looking at. It looks like they've actually taken a still from the movie instead of like getting the art for it. But yeah, I'm glad it's a common card. I don't imagine it seeing much play, and it's probably going to end up in the binder. I don't imagine it being anywhere else. Like I say, I think it's okay, but it's definitely not going to see play. I would laugh now. In 6 months' time, we come back and we're like, do you remember that out of order card that everyone's now running 4 of and everything? No, it's not going to happen. So, talking of the Ruby Steel deck that I was talking about earlier today, we have Mulan. It's a 7-cost inkable, which is always a good start with a shift 5. It's a 5/6 quest for 2. 7 cost is very high for this style of deck, but it does come with a few extras. So it does have evasive, which is always a good start. And whenever this character challenges another character, your other characters gain. This character can challenge ready characters this turn. That is a mouthful and a half. This could be very, very powerful. I noticed the other day, I like putting a few foils in my deck, especially the uncommons, the ones that they're relatively cheap to pick up. I looked online at One Last Hope, which is a steel song that allows you to challenge ready characters, and it's sold out on Card Market. So I imagine this card with a Mulan shift is going to be broken, because the fact it can sit on the board, you can challenge once with one thing and then challenge into everything else that's ready, is just absolutely nuts. It's not one, it's all of your other characters. Yeah. Between this and the Mushu, this basically confirms that Ruby Sapphire, I think, is definitely viable next set, 100%. What do you reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a hero and a princess as well, so hits some key classifications there. But yeah, as you say, coming in on 5, being able to swing straight into something, survive that, and then allow your other characters to challenge ready characters for the turn. That's going to potentially allow some very good value trades for you. Yeah, potentially create quite a big swing in the game state for this coming down. So and you've got your option of Mulans, right, to shift onto as well, right? There's a few about.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be one of those. It's an impactful turn. This is going to be one of those ones that this is in this deck. The chances are you're not going to be running beef, right? Because you can't afford to wipe your side of the board. It's just going to be too impactful to yourself. This deck's going to take a little while to build up to be able to do what it needs to do. So you're not going to want to do that. So you've got Grab a Sword, which can obviously help wipe the other side of the board. But something like this, if you can get this down and shift 5 when you've got a couple of other characters ready to challenge, this could massively impact the game. This is basically up against anything that's aggro. This is going to have to be you mulligan find this. You need this in hand to make sure you can clear the board on turn 5 and start again. Other than that, you're going to struggle. I mean, it's a shame it's not Ruby Amethyst, because this is your perfect shift 7 for pre-prep, but it's definitely got a few options. Like I said, I don't imagine B-prep in this deck. I could be wrong until I've actually 3D crafted it out. but I don't imagine it being in there because wiping your sideboard is just going to knock you too far back. So yeah, I love this card. I absolutely love this. Again, another possibility for an enchanted. So
It is a really good looking card. Yeah.
it could definitely be up there. We do like our Hero Princess enchanted cards, so it's definitely got an option. So here we are.
Here we are at last. You build it up, so go on, take it away.
Oh, go on then. So we have the 2-cost inkable Sapphire coil. Now, each colour has its own coil. It's a bit like the Chromicon, and they all do different things. And this one is completely, well, it is and it isn't. It is a bit busted. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, so that can be your very first ink of the turn, you may choose chosen character -2 strength this turn. So with this is basically an ice block, but you don't have to exert it. It's inkable versus uninkable, and it's every time you put something in the ink. So there's a chance you could use this multiple times within a turn. I was having a discussion with someone the other day actually on this card, and as much as at first sight it does seem extremely good, this could force people to ink stuff that they don't want to.
Yeah, indeed. I think this is flat out good, though. Yeah. I mean, you're right in that situation, but I think if I'm sitting across the table from a good Sapphire Ruby player and they put this down, I know I've got problems. So yeah, I think this is a very good card. I actually also like the flavor text on this says a single flash of light from the coil on Ventro's leg could blind any foe. I kind of like that because that's what it's doing, right? It's blinding one of your opposing characters, which is reducing their strength, reducing their ability. Yeah, I think this is as you say, one of the things that Ruby Sapphire has struggled with at times, if it's struggled with anything, has been uninkables and the ability for it to get a really bricky hand. So, if this takes uninkables out of the deck, that's that
is
in
there
itself
ever a world that they end up running 4 ice blocks and 4 of these and 4 Sisus, and you just basically shift Sisu on turn 6 and wipe your entire board? Because nothing's safe anymore. Before it was like, a 3 strength is decent. They need an ice block. If they've got an ice block in play, there's a chance you're going to lose one of your 3 strength, but the others may survive. With this, a 4's not even safe anymore. A 4 could get knocked down and then get brawled. So that 5 strength is now the key point of where you need to try and get to.
I mean, we have got cards that can deal with items, right? So it's just I don't think we'll wait and see, but I don't think this is flat out breaking the game. I think it's changing the game because I think you are now going to have to think about some of those cards that you don't necessarily run in your deck that you can. So Benja's, comes in as an obvious one straight away, right? Benja isn't commonly run in decks, certainly not as a 4 of, but if this is going to be prevalent, then I could see Benja becoming a 4 of in most steel decks.
Yeah, I mean, I took the chance the other week when we had the first reveals and we had the Beast and the Bell come out with the items. I took a chance and bought four foil Benjas online for almost nothing, and now they've tripled, if not quadrupled, what they were. It's going to have to be. Steel's going to have to go back to running 4 Benjas in every deck. But don't get me wrong, Benja's a good card. It quests for 2, so it's not the end of the world. But do we end up having to run things like Finder and Platinum just to answer items? It could get to the point where you have to run tech cards like that to deal with decks like this, which is an option, but it's not a great card to have sitting in your deck if you come against Ruby Amethyst, because then it really is a brick. But we'll see. It's definitely going to change, and I think this set has really introduced things where you have to take a minute and look at it and go, could they have this? Could they have that? Not just a case of, I can see what you got on board, I haven't got to worry about anything else. So yeah, I think it's definitely going to change things up. I think that was the last one, wasn't it?
Press the button and we'll see.
No,
We've
no, it
got
wasn't.
another one.
So yeah, talking about each one having a separate one. So this is a steel core. So this is a 2-cost uninkable. Personally, not as good. So during your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, so all of them have that ability. You may draw a card, then choose and discard a card. I mean, I suppose at the start of each turn, you get to siphon through your deck. So if this was inkable like the other one, potentially display being uninkable, I'm not sure. It's gonna tighten down a lot of decks. So I'm not too sure on it. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it is the uninkability that's really hurts this card. Uninkable spaces are quite tight in most decks now. You can get this, you can get this ability in a number of ways in Steel. Actually, there are a number of character cards that allow you to do this. So, if you really wanted this ability, I think there are better ways to find it. I mean, obviously, this allows you to do it every turn once it's down, but yeah, just for being uninkable, I think it makes this kind of slow and clunky, and it's where what you're gonna have to drop out of your deck to play this.
So I believe this is the last one because this is one that I believe is either going to be very, very, very good in certain decks or very, very, very bad. It's definitely a banish on site. You see someone play this, you're going to want to get rid of it very, very quickly. There are decks that can make it so you don't even get a chance. And we're talking about 2-cost uninkable Mickey Mouse, which is a 1/1, which doesn't sound like a lot at all. Quest for 1, which you're probably never going to quest for this. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may play a character for free. There's a lot of very heavy characters that you could easily target with this, but to do it in one turn is unlikely because you're going to need something like Vitalsphere. So you could do this potentially on turn 3 or 4. But we're now talking 3-card combos because you're going to need that big, powerful card in your hand as well. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, first of all, this has to be an enchanted. Please make this an enchanted. I think this would be absolutely amazing as an enchanted. I love the artwork. Obviously, it's Mickey Mouse, and it's a legendary. So, what a chase enchanted this would be. But yeah, I agree with you. This isn't a turn 2 card. It might be cost 2, but it's not turn 2. As you say, it needs something with it, and there are options. There's a Cogsworth that can give it rush. As you say, there's things like Vitalosphere that can give it rush and a bit of extra strength. So possibly, somebody will find a combination that this works in, but it doesn't feel consistent enough for that point. You've got to have both cards in hand, and then you've got to have the character that you're going to play for free in hand as well, right? And if we want to get value out of this, we're envisaging that being a pretty chunky character of some sort.
I mean, don't get me wrong, playing any character free is always going to be a benefit, but you obviously want the highest character possible.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, again, it's a really interesting one that'll be interesting to see if somebody can come up with a deck that can make this work consistently, but I don't think that'll be the case. I think this will go in maybe some niche decks and the sort of deck that you might play at your locals because it's just going to be so much fun when you do pull it off. And early on in the game, you're dropping some huge character down on the board, and smiling all the way to the win. But in competitive decks, it just doesn't feel like it's going to be consistent enough.
No, 100%. I think my first reaction to this was it's unbelievable, it's broken. And then when you sit there and really, really think about it, the chances of pulling this off is so unlikely, especially it being a 1/1. This dies to a lot of cards, especially with all the abilities to be able to exert things now. And, this is never going to be able to sit on the board to be ready to challenge. This is going to have to be rush and challenging. The chances of this sticking on the board on a turn is highly unlikely. If you're playing against something that's aggro, potentially. But then if you're playing against something with aggro and you've got time to play this card, then you're already winning the game. If you're at a point where you can afford to pay a 2-ink cost card and have it sit on the board to do nothing for a turn, you must already have control of the board, because otherwise you're going to lose to aggro anyway. I don't see it personally. Like I say, my first reaction was amazing. After re-looking at it, maybe not. I believe that was it. Yep, we're back to the fun of,
Yeah.
we won't talk about that.
Just happened that you brought up my misplay again. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was a misplay.
Just
I didn't mean to do that. So thank you very much. So we are going to move on to our ending as always. So we're going to bring you the tagline game. So with the tagline game, we will read you out a tagline, which is the text at the bottom of the card, and it basically links you to a card. So I will give you the clue for this week. It is a steel card. I'm not going to tell you which card it is. Let's see if you can work this one out, and leave us a comment. Drop us a comment below in either Spotify or YouTube. There is also our email link below as well if you wish to do that instead. If you have any decks or anything you want us to go through and talk about, please just send them across. We're more than happy for ideas. Please leave us obviously as much feedback and comments as possible, so that way we can try and improve and bring you the content that you guys want to receive. So for the tagline, we've got, "It ain't cheating if you're the one making the rules." So have a think about that one. See if you can work out who that is, and leave us a message. Is there anything else you want to say on our way out?
Well, I think next time we might be starting to look at some decks. That we're brewing up some decks for set 7. So, I just got 2 words for you on that, for monster puppies.
Oh my god!
So just leave you with that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And we'll bring you some fun decks next time.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll do some bit of theory crafting and see what we can come up with good ideas and some bad ones. We'll see how that goes. So, thank you very much for listening and watching, guys. I've been FES and obviously Grandad Glenn, and I hope you enjoyed, and we'll speak to you in the next one.